everyone, this is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And I'm here today to answer any questions you may have about your cloud computing career. Maybe a desire to become a cloud architect, maybe a desire to become a solution architect, maybe you want to become a cloud engineer or an enterprise architect. Whatever it is, I want to help you get your first job, get promoted in your job, or build your best technology career. See, I'm not just the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers and Go Cloud Architects. I've been working in tech now for 25 years, ever since I left practicing internal medicine. And during that time, I've been an architect for 25 years. And I've spent more than 2 decades helping people get promoted or get their first tech job. And I'm going to help you. And that's why I'm here. Get your first cloud architect job, your first cloud engineer job, your first solution architect job. That's why we come here. I also know, in my experience of 20 years of tech career coaching, that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And I've been able to save people 5 and 10 years on their career path to get to their goal just by giving them the shortest path, by letting them know exactly the things they need for their career versus somebody else's. In fact, I'm going to tell you the biggest problem right now is people don't exactly know the skills for their exact career. And they're so busy learning things for other people's careers that it keeps them from getting hired, promoted, or have that. And that's why we're here. So come, ask your questions, and we'll do everything we can completely free on these webinars to help you get your best cloud architect job, solution architect job, cloud engineer job, enterprise architect job, or whatever it is for your tech career. That's why we're here completely free. Before we get started answering questions today, I want to let you know some new and exciting stuff. First, flash sale. We decided to offer 30% off for Memorial Day. This is going to be across all of our platforms, our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, where we get people hired as cloud architects every day. Our new Cloud Engineer Career Development Program is going to apply for that too. It's going to apply for our Tech Interview Mastery Program if you want to maximize your interview. And if you're really trying to accelerate your tech career, you've been working in tech, it'll still apply for our Tech Career Accelerator Program. So if you're trying to get hired or trying to get promoted, 30% off right now while it lasts. Next thing I want to tell you about is something we're going to do fun and completely free for the community. Do you know on June 14th, we're going to run a completely free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp. We're going to start at the very beginning. By the end of that session, you will all know Azure. You'll be prepared for the Azure AZ305, the Azure Solution Architect Expert exam, but more importantly, we'll teach you about the cloud while we do it as well, because we want to give you all the skills you need. So join us for this free Solution Architect Bootcamp. I see people charging $5,000 for a week's bootcamp. We're doing it for free because we want to get you hired, we want to get you promoted, we want to give you skills. So come join us completely for free. Let's talk about what we're going to do this week to help you build your cloud computing career. On Wednesday this week, we're going to do a completely free interview session. Do you know I've interviewed over 6,000 people in my career? And I've also never been on an interview where I didn't get hired because I've studied interview tactics and training for years. I've coached interviews for years, and I've coached hundreds of people on their interviews and helped so many people I can't even count get their first cloud architect job, their first network engineer job, their first solution architect job, their first any kind of tech job. And the gatekeeper for that is the interview. So learn how to master the technical interview. It's completely free. You're going to do it on Wednesday. Sign up. I'll practice interview. You'll know exactly whether you're ready to get hired, or you'll know the gaps that you have to get hired. In either case, you'll know what you need to do to get cloud hired. That's why we're here. We're all about getting cloud hired. Anybody can get you certified. Anybody can do that, truthfully. We get you hired. There's a huge difference between certified and sitting on the sidelines hoping for a job and cloud hired with a good salary, having a good life. And we get you cloud hired. The last 3 things that we want to do, for example, is the following. I'm going to tell you on Thursday, we can help you we have a completely free how to get your first cloud architect job webinar. So we'll tell you what hiring managers want, what you need to know, and everything you need to get cloud hired. So please join us. Now, if you've got a question, please ask it in the chat box. Chris, start feeding me questions. And while we're at it, if you give me a hashtag cloud hired in the chat box. And while you're at it, tell us where you're located in the world. I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida right now. Having a good time. It's 95 degrees outside. Practiced yoga on my lunch break. And let me tell you, you can see I got some sun and it's hot outside. So there's really terrific things. So bring in some questions.
All right. So for everyone that's in the chat box, normally I go in order of the questions.
But the last one is so
the
dangerous.
last one, the last one is coming in first because it's the most dangerous thing in the world.
Okay, so this question is so dangerous we prioritized it. You spoke with cloud engineers and software developers, and they said you can't get a good cloud architect job with no experience or background in cloud engineering. Well, first thing I'm going to tell you right now, I don't ask software engineers about networking careers, and I certainly don't ask cloud engineers about architect careers, and here's why. They know nothing about our job. Train for your job and not somebody else's. So let me put it into context. Let's say you are asking me about how to become a doctor, and you decided to ask nurses what doctors did, and then ask pharmacists what doctors did. Do you know what would happen? You wouldn't know what cloud architects do. So I'm going to tell you this, train for your job, not somebody else's job. So last week, I had two people get hired as cloud, well, lots of people get hired as cloud architects, but I'll give you two of them. One got hired by AWS. He just left college and has not worked as a cloud engineer in his life. Another one has never had a tech job. He's 20 years old, doesn't even have a college degree, and he got a big cloud architect job for a bank with no background in cloud engineering. And here's the reason. A cloud engineer and a cloud architect's jobs are so different. So I'm going to give you the real example. So as a cloud architect, we design, present, and sell. I'm going to say it again. We design, present, and sell. So the skills for the cloud architect are as follows. You need to be CXO relevant, meaning you need to be able to relate to the CEO, CFO, CIO, CTO. A cloud engineer does not do that, and this is not part of their skills. As a cloud architect, you will be giving presentations every day of the week. And guess what? A cloud engineer does not do that, and cloud engineers, therefore, do not have these skills. Additionally, let's talk about what else you're going to be doing. You're going to be responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, requests for information, requests for proposal, requests for quote. That's not a cloud engineer skill. This is an architect skill, and you need training for this. Now, as an architect, you're going to be published in magazines constantly, and you need to know how to do that executive writing to do so. Not so for the cloud engineer. It's a different career. Now, mind you, being good at somebody else's career does not make you good at your career. It's so dangerous. We're going to talk about this. So then there's that. The next thing is a cloud architect will have to do ROI modeling. Guess what? The cloud engineer doesn't have to do that in their job either. You're going to have to prove to the customer that the value of the solution is greater than its cost with a mathematical formula. Now, as a cloud architect, you often lead business councils. Cloud engineers don't do that, so you need leadership. Now, as a cloud architect, you're going to be managing teams of engineers. So you're going to need special leadership skills. Now, these are not skills that are trained by the engineers, except for the engineering managers. Now, as a cloud architect, we don't touch the tech. I'm going to say this again. We don't touch the tech. We design the tech. So for us, we need expert network design and system design and data center design. I'm going to tell you what that is right now. That skill is as following. And I'm going to tell you why being a cloud engineer first will make it harder for you to be a cloud architect afterwards when we learn these skills. And I'm going to tell you why it's so much harder for me to get cloud engineers hired as cloud architects than people off the street without the background. And I'll tell you that next. But first, I want you to know the tech. The cloud architects design the WAN, which means we need to know IPsec tunneling, SSL-based VPN, software-defined networking, secure edge, secure access, SASE. We need to understand Ethernet over MPLS, MPLS-based networks, private lines, etc. For that cloud architect, we need to know how that works. The cloud engineer is not going to design them, they're going to configure them, so they need a different set. For us, it's the how, it's the why. For the engineers, it's the how. It's a different skill set. Now, because we're going to be dealing with networking, we've got to know BGP in depth because we have to design how we're going to load share across our links. We're going to have to be dealing with interior gateway protocols and how to architect them, such as OSPF, intermediate systems to intermediate systems. Now, we're going to be talking about the WAN, so we're going to be dealing with the design of VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking. We may get involved in some spanning tree, rapid spanning tree stuff, or the layer 2 bridging stuff, so we don't get loops. We'll be involved in designing a NAT solution, and not just a NAT to the internet, a NAT for overlapping IP addresses, and NAT for buying companies. There's that. Then we're going to have to sell our solution, which an engineer won't do. We're going to have to present our solution to the CXO management. We're also going to have to design the architecture for how do we take the virtual machines over to the cloud, the containers over to the cloud, the storage over to the cloud. But it's not for us how to configure the storage. We don't configure anything. We have to design it. And for design, we have to know how it works, not how to do. So there's critical for that. We then need to be designing their firewall strategy, their next generation firewall strategy, the IDS IPS system strategy. Again, this is not an engineering skill. This is an architecture skill. We're then going to be designing the business strategy and what kind of CRM applications and ERP applications, because here's our job as an architect, cloud architect, digital transformation, take vague business requirements and translate them into a solution. Now, by comparison, the cloud engineer builds things. We don't touch the tech. Now, the cloud engineer builds things, which means the cloud engineer needs to know how to build. So the cloud engineer needs to know how to configure everything on the clouds. They still need to know how the tech works, but they got to build. Because a cloud engineer is a builder, they're going to have to learn to code. Cloud architects don't code. Our coding is not a skill for an architect, it's a skill for an engineer. So a cloud engineer needs to know how to learn Python scripts, for example, or Python scripts and Bash shell scripts. We architects will never touch that. The cloud engineers will need to be experts at administering Linux because they're touching the tech. A cloud engineer needs to know Terraform. Not an architect, we don't touch the tech. So these jobs are so far apart that if you study and get an engineering career, you're going to have a really hard time as an architect. And here's why. When I get cloud engineers, they want to touch the tech. They want to get close to the tech. And here's the reason engineers and architects have a hard time transitioning careers. In fact, we especially transition our engineers by telling them to unlearn all the engineering and teach architecture, because here's why. Let's say tonight you go out and look at the sky. The architect needs to look at that whole sky. This Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, all the stars, the clouds, the moon, it's big and beautiful. But an engineer needs to be hands-on. So an engineer needs to zoom in. So tonight, go outside, pretend first you're an architect, look at the big picture. Then take a telescope and zoom into, all you see is the moon, and look at the moon. Look at the craters on the moon, the color on the moon, the reflection of light off the moon, the refraction of light off the moon. It's going to be beautiful, I tell you. But you know, you're not going to see the sky. And the biggest challenge for architects is when they want to be engineers, they get involved in the tech. And as soon as they get involved in the tech, they miss the big picture. They skip the digital transformation. That cloud engineer, now new architect, is now fired, not hired, and not hireable by anybody else, because architecture and engineering are very different careers. So if you told me you wanted to go to become a doctor, I would not tell you how to learn how to fly a plane. And if you told me you were a lawyer, I would not tell you how to go to medical school, because it's irrelevant. It's totally different skill sets. And if you want to be an architect, train to be an architect. We got 100 cloud architects last year, and none of them were cloud engineers first. None of them. But they all got six-figure jobs and then some. I even had one student that got a $275,000 enterprise architect job out of our cloud architect career development program last year. But guess what? They did not train to be engineers first. Now, I've taken a lot of engineers and got them to be architects, and they become great. And I love engineers. And here's the reason why. I'm a cloud architect. I design it, and that cloud engineer builds it. But we have different careers. So I don't ask proctologists, which are physicians of a certain type, how to look into eyes, which is an ophthalmologist. I ask people in my career. So you're asking an architect, I'm telling you how to build an architecture career. If you build an engineer, they're going to teach you how to get an engineering career. But I certainly wouldn't ask a software developer, because what a software developer knows about cloud architecture is about as much as I know about software development. Nothing. Why? Because it's a different career. And if I want to be a good architect, I focus on architecture and not software development. I can hire a software developer, but it's not me. So, earlier today, I put out a post that says, train for your career, not somebody else's. And here's the reason. My 25 years of experience in tech, and my last 20 years of career coaching, 99% of the mistakes I've seen is when somebody asks the wrong people about how to do a job. Hey, I'm going to ask two people not in a career how to do their job. So don't ask a cloud engineer and don't ask a software developer. Now, I'll tell you this. Ask a distinguished architect that's been an architect for 10 years, what they do. And they'll tell you they design, present, and sell. They'll tell you they entertain clients, do ROI modeling, they write thought leadership thing. Ask him. Ask an architect what they do. Do not ask an engineer about their job, because they don't know at all. You know how I know what cloud engineers do? I'll tell you right now. I've asked hundreds of hiring managers, what do you want in the perfect cloud engineer? Hundreds of recruiters, what do you want in the perfect cloud engineer? And I've asked cloud engineers, they've been cloud engineers for years. So ask an expert in your field. So if I'm going to look for information on economics, I'm going to go to an economist. I am not going to go to a nursing assistant. I love nursing assistants. They help me as a nurse. But a nursing assistant is not trained in economics. I also went and asked an economist to ask me to practice medicine, because it's a different career. So this question was so dangerous, we decided to prioritize it. Train for your career, not somebody else's career. And definitely don't ask people in different careers how to optimize your career because they have no idea. In fact, there was a painting. It's an old painting. It was a biblical painting. And you had a bunch of blind people holding on to each other, and the blind were leading the blind. And that's what happens when you ask somebody from some additional career how to get your new job. Blind leading the blind, and I want to help you. So if you want to be an architect, train to be an architect. Train system design, train the leadership skills, the business skills, the network and the data center skills, and you'll be hired. But I'll tell you one thing that's not going to get you there, certification. You know what else is not going to get you there? Studying engineering. Studying engineering will get you an engineering job, and that's great. I love engineering job, but don't expect engineering training to get you an architect job. Just like learning how to fly a plane will not make anybody a physician. I hope I answered that question. If there's subsequent questions, I'm thrilled to answer it. And then, Chris, we can go to the next one after I stop spilling water all over myself and my excitement to help people build their best careers. Cool Dude 5699. Do you think it's a good idea to get your first cloud architect job as a solution architect since you'll be indoctrinated in one provider's technology and not be impartial enough for future roles? Oh, that's a good one. So Cool Dude 5699. As a rule, I train cloud architects for a reason. A solution architect only knows one cloud, and a cloud architect knows all of them. So because of this, I train cloud architects. Now, Cool Dude 56999 or 5699, here we have to be real. And I train students to be cloud architects, and I'm going to tell you about 30% of them take solution architect jobs as their first job. And the rest take cloud architect jobs, and I encourage them to take either. And here's the reason why. You know, when it comes to getting your first cloud architect job or first solution architect job, I deal with at least 50 people that have zero experience in tech forever. And like I said, last week, 2 of my zero experience, zero background in tech people got their first cloud architect job. Now, one went to AWS as a solution architect, and AWS hires a tremendous number of our people. Why? Because AWS loves the emotional intelligence training that we do. They love the actual system design training we do. They love that we teach our people not to use jargon. They love that our people have really good soft skills, emotional intelligence, CXO relevancy, ROI modeling, etc. So they hire so many of ours, plus the competency piece. But Cool Dude 5699, if it's your first cloud architect job, take a good one. If it's a solution architect one, take it. If it's a cloud architect one, take it. On your first job, we got to get you something for about 1 year. And the reality is, when you don't have any experience whatsoever, we're dealing with about 1 in 3 hiring managers that's willing to hire you. Now, that's assuming we bypass HR like we teach you how to do and you go directly to the hiring manager, basically 1 out of 3. And that's why we work so hard so that when you do get those interviews, you get hired on the interview, you don't lose an interview. Like I said, if anybody's ever been on 3 interviews and not hired, there's a problem. Problem with their competency, with their communication skills, their attitude, or something. There's a problem. Nobody should ever need to go more than 3 job interviews. But we're dealing with people that are going to have to go on 3 job interviews, and here's why. Only 1 out of the 3 people with the perfect interview will hire them. So I like to say, for your first cloud architect job, if it's a solution architect job, take it. If it's a cloud architect job, take it. The point is once you get that first stamp on your resume, and whether it's a good cloud architect job, like we have people getting them at big banks, that's great. If it's a system integrator or it's a cloud architect job, great. But if it's AWS, if it's Azure, if it's Google, if it's Cisco, if it's Dell, if it's Palo Alto in their cloud, it's Nutanix, be thrilled. They may be solution architect job, but it's your first job in the cloud as a system designer. Take that stamp on your resume, work there for a year or 2, get out of there and go take a bigger job. Or maybe you love it. I spent a decade at Cisco, and I got to tell you, in some of that time I was doing solution architect work, and I loved it. But 90% of my time I play my game, which is not the solution architect role, because that's kind of at the bottom of the beginning. I play the enterprise architect role. I focus on the big business, the executive communication, the leadership style, the business rationale of why, and the executive leaders. And I do that because that really is where you double and triple your salary and really maximize your career potential. So your really good architect is an executive. And that solution architect is 50% tech, 50% executive, the solution architect. That cloud architect is probably 60% executive, 40% tech. And that enterprise architect is going to be 80% executive, 20% tech. So got to start somewhere. And it's better to start out on the tech side in the beginning slightly, build your business acumen, your leadership. Those cloud providers will spend a fortune training you. Maybe 6 months of doing nothing other than sending you to training. That level of experience, that brand on your resume, it's incredible. And here's how incredible it is, Cool Dude 5699. When I took my first job in tech, it was at MCI WorldCom, which was the world's biggest internet service provider. I got my first tech job in tech where they wanted 10 years experience, but I had 0. My first tech job was a senior network engineer. 6 months later, I was the lead architect on the most critical team at the world's largest ISP. So why? Well, I went to WorldCom and I said, I'm going to be an expert on my job. The rest of the people I worked with, they were learning Linux. One guy was learning the code. Some guy was worried about switching, even though we were only doing WANs, which didn't include switching in those days. It was only routing. There were other people that were focused on databases. It was like they were training their interests. Not me. I said, I'm a network engineer. I don't only want to know BGP, OSPF, EIGRP, PIM sparse dense mode, and that's all I did. You know what? That's why my career did this, and theirs all did this. They teeter-totter because they were getting good at learning other people's jobs versus me focusing on my job. So I think you got to get your first job sometime. If it's a cloud provider, woohoo, we're happy. If it's a big bank, woohoo, we're happy. If it's a big 4 consulting firm, woohoo, we're happy. So for your first job, take what's offered to you. Do it for a year. If you love it, stay. And if you don't love it, go somewhere else. After that WorldCom brand, the world reached out to me. And then I worked on Wall Street, and then the world was woo. And then from there, I went to Comcast. Whoa, the world's coming after me. From Comcast, I went to this company called Riverstone Networks, which is an awesome tech company, which is now Nokia. And the other half of those people that aren't in Nokia are at Versa Networks, another incredible tech company. So anyway, there was that. Then after that, I went to Cisco. Now because of Cisco, everybody reaches out to me every day. Well, other reasons too. But so get the stamp on your resume, get excited, get cloud hired, Cool Dude 5699, and tell me when you did. Tell me when you're hired, and I can't wait to see it. Love when people get hired.
So this person just asked why we skipped their question, but we haven't gotten to their question except now. So we did not skip your question, LF.
LF, how are you doing today? Do I think a help desk job can help you land a cloud job later? No, at all. So here's the thing. Help desk has a huge stigma with it. Well, before I answer this, tell me what kind of cloud job you're looking for, because without that, I don't know. So tell me what kind of cloud job you're looking for, and then after that, I can answer it. And then Chris, go to another question while we figure out what kind of cloud job LF is looking for, because in some cases, the help desk will really hurt his career, and in other cases, it might help it. I will tell you one thing, LF, we generally keep people and advise people not to start at help desk and not to do those entry-level anythings. But it's all dependent upon the career you want. But if you're looking for the bigger roles, you have to tell us what career you want, though. Hi, Chow. She's over there in Dallas. Chow from my team. Eddie Patrick, wonderful, wonderful cloud engineer, cloud engineer also, and a cloud architect, because he's got both sets of skills. But I got to tell you, he's one of ours. He's so great, we had to hire him. He's in Cameroon. Eddie, we're thrilled to have you here. Jason Ferris, Melbourne, Australia. Good morning. Wow, I've spent a lot of time in the Victorian province over there, Jason Ferris. I actually consulted to 3/4 of the hospitals in that province about how to improve their healthcare performance through the use of technology. You know what I like about Melbourne? I'm Greek. And when I go to Melbourne, it's an easy time for me to get Greek food. So, love it over there. A little cold sometimes, a little cold and damp. Kind of feels like San Francisco, but I got to tell you, spent a lot of time in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm thrilled that you're here. This audience feels pretty quiet today. It's not normal. Pile on your questions. We're here to help you. Is AWS certification enough to get a cloud architect job? AWS certification won't get you any job, ever. How easy is it to use the path with no knowledge and test? Well, I can tell you this, that you could do the AWS Certified Solution Architect in 2 days with the right practice test, and you could pass the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional in less than a week with the right practice test. These exams are so basic and so junior. They're super, super, super easy. To put it into context, when I did my Cisco Certified Internet Expert, and that was an exam that you could get you hired. It was 75,000 pages of reading. I could put the entire, and I've done it in a certification book, the entire AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate in 250 pages. It's nothing. So here's the key. AWS makes that exam challenging by integrating all their brands and all their jargon in it. But the content is so basic. Those certifications will not get anybody a job ever, and here's why. Certification teaches you the name of a service and how to configure that service. Cloud architects don't name services or configure services. So if I go talk to my customer says, Mike, I'm trying to increase my sales. Our current website has some hiccups. Right now, our revenue run rate per month is $18 billion. We'd like to get that to $19 billion. What kind of technologies can you deploy to help me do that? Well, that requires a few things. First, it requires me to have business acumen to understand, not covered in certification, covered in an MBA, covered in our training, but not covered in any certification. Then you need to understand all the levers you have. How do you increase sales? What are your options? Could you create a new marketing campaign? Could you change the website things? Could you increase dwell time? Is there a promotional strategy? What can you do? How can you enlist parts of the world? You've got to have the business knowledge. We teach that, but you have to have that. And that's not covered in solution architect training. Then we need to lead a team of, say, 50 cloud engineers that's going to baseline that organization's technology, which means you've got to be a leader and you've got to have those skills. Then you need to communicate with that CEO in their language, which means CXO relevancy. Then, after you do all that, you translate all those business requirements to a technology solution, you lead your team through a proof of concept exam, and then after that, you have to sell it to the customer. So now what do? First thing you got to do is as follows. You got to document your thing, not taught. Write several documents on it. Create a return on investment capital model. None of this is taught. Design it, present it, and go sell it back to your customer. Now you're dealing with a solution that's going to be a few $300 million to $1 billion easily. Now in the same solution, you're going to have to show the customer the business case about it, show the customer how it's going to optimize the thing, and then you're going to have to negotiate a deal. None of that is covered in this. So the cloud architect job is not really a tech job. That's the whole problem. That's why certifications don't equate to anything. Now here's the thing, all these certifications will not get anybody a cloud engineer job either. Because these certifications don't teach the most important thing, the network and data center technical context. Why? What we architects do, we design a plan to take the stuff from the network and the data center to the cloud. And you know what they don't teach in the cloud certifications? The network and the data center. So these jobs are professional jobs. They pay well, and there's a really needed skill set for them. And none of that is in there. So what I did before I started this company was as follows. I interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people. 100 of them had more than 7x certifications. I couldn't hire a single one of them. When I asked 1,000 AWS certified people what's a virtual machine, they had no idea. If I said I have 2 equal cost paths to AWS and I want load sharing without out-of packets, nobody had any idea. When I asked people to explain block storage and object storage to me and which one I use and why and how to optimize the metadata, nobody had any idea because they didn't teach architecture at all. They taught not even engineering at all. What they taught was admin skills. And admin jobs are the lowest level where basically you just know the name of a service configure. You're considered a technician and not a professional. So certifications won't get any job, not an architect job, not an engineering job. And that's why people that get certifications think they need to take all these other jobs for 5 years, 10 years to learn stuff. No, learn the skills for your job and you get that job directly. You know, I went to school. Sometimes I was done school, I was taking care of sick people. I studied medicine, so it's not like I decided to be on help desk for a couple of years, and maybe after that, maybe I could work in the morgue and wash some dead bodies and package them for the dismissal, and then maybe I could be a nursing assistant. No, I studied and I practiced my career initially, so it's the same thing. These exams are very easy. We've got free certification training on our channel. We've got free certification books on our YouTube channel, which you can use. There's great free certification information on the AWS page. Lots of great white papers itself. Andrew Brown from ExamPro has a fantastic, completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. One thing I'll tell you, then, unless you're in the developing world, do not waste your time on the cloud practitioner exam. There's people that charge for it, but it's not worth your time. We made a video on why you shouldn't take it. That's even too intro for even an intro job. So, no certification is going to get there. But the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, in my mind, is our entry-level certification. It's still very basic, but that gives you about 5 to 10% of the knowledge you need for the cloud architect, the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. We teach that, plus the other 95% to get you hired. So at least you know why. And that's why you can't just study engineering and get here, and that's why you can't get certifications to get here. That's why people have a hard time getting cloud architect jobs, because they don't know what the architect is, they don't know what the architect does, and they don't have the architect skills. So certification, not enough to get any job in today's world. Except the CCIE, that will get you a network engineer job, and the CCDE will help you get a network architect job. But they're the only two certifications that really hold any weight. Why? You need 75 to 100,000 pages of reading to get there. We do still do and recommend the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. We teach it to all of our students, or the Azure Solution Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. They won't get you hired, but they will get you an interview. So we use those as a means to get the interview. And then the rest of what we teach is how do you get hired once you get that interview. So hope I answered your question there. So before we get to the next question, don't be shy, everybody. Lots of people ask questions. We've helped so many people get hired, even just from attending these free sessions. Before we go to the next one, I want to remind you that we're currently offering 30% off for Memorial Day. Now, to get an average of $160,000 a year job, and we get almost everybody cloud hired. Everybody that does our program, everyone that completes our program, for the most part, gets cloud hired. We keep you in the program until you're cloud hired. So for a cost of $700 to get a $160,000 career on average, or if you're using a payment plan, paying less than $250 a month for something like that, you can see we're doing it to help change the world. We're doing to improve your economic and financial situation. It's not a money thing. I don't need to work. I've been retired for a decade. I do this to help you. Somebody helped me kick off my architect career, and I loved it so much. I want to get you all cloud hired. So take advantage of the 30% off Memorial Day discount. Use coupon code MEMORIAL. LF, you want to work as a cloud engineer, but you don't have any experience in IT. You're a mechanical engineer with programming and Linux experience. So LF, if you want to become a cloud engineer, I recommend you train to be a cloud engineer. Help desk will not help you at all. In fact, help desk, I believe, is the career killer that people start with that doesn't go anywhere. And here's the reason, LF. Help desk has a brand, and every career has their brand. Let me tell you the brand. The architect brand is I'm an executive that knows tech. The engineer brand is I'm a deep technical professional. I've got a deep professional body of knowledge. I have deep expertise. And but I'm a techie. The help desk job is I'm not a techie. I have no deep expertise. And I'm just starting out. I'm rough around the edges. I don't know how to talk to people. That's the brand. So LF, when you've got the help desk brand, and I work with help desk people, the biggest challenge we have is changing your brand. And unless you want to hire a marketing department or have an expert like me on your staff, changing that brand is going to be rough. Because you're going to have to change the way you look, walk, and talk. You're going to have to get rid of half of the things that are on your resume. And you're really going to have to translate that experience into something else. By comparison, for the people that just take our cloud engineer career development program, they'll just work as a cloud engineer as their first job. And I want you to understand the difference. And I want you to understand the financial modeling and the rationale why. So you get a job in help desk and you take it for 3 to 5 years. Now, in these 3 to 5 years, a help desk job pays, say, $40,000 US a year, and maybe 50 if you're lucky. So while you're doing this job and building this help desk brand, you're earning the equivalent of, say, $25 an hour in the US, and you're building the brand. And while you're here, you're going to get calls all day from cranky, exhausted people. You're going to be tired by the end of the day because everybody's going to call and yell at you. So to me, worst job you can do in tech, lowest pay, and no fun whatsoever. Now you want to become a cloud engineer later, and you got to do 2 things. Learn all the cloud engineering skills. And while you're at it, get rid of that help desk brand, which means a new LinkedIn profile, a new resume, paying somebody like me for hours of time, which gets expensive unless you're one of my students. And we have to show you how to translate everything. So when you're in help desk, nobody cares if you answered the phone and picked up a call. That's not a cloud engineer's job. So we have to figure out what you did. So maybe while you're in help desk, you created a new ticketing system which improved performance and closed tickets 20% sooner. Now that's the kind of thing we could talk about. But closed tickets, not interesting, because what we want here is a professional that can work in a team, a professional that's strong, a professional for the cloud engineer that knows Linux. And I mean Linux engineering, Linux administration, that knows how to write Linux scripts, that knows how to write Python code, that knows deeply how the cloud works, that knows those network and data center concepts, and hopefully a professional that can communicate a little better than a help desk. So if you get a help desk brand, you could do that, but realize you're going to have to work really, really hard. So I'll give you the example. Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, two of my favorite actors of all time. What are they known for? What's their brand? Action movies. So, nobody's calling Rocky and saying, would you make this romantic love story with Jennifer Aniston? I think it would be a great movie, but it's not the kind of thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, is not exactly the guy that's making love stories and dramas because it's not his brand. They make action movies where people shoot or fight. It's great. I love it, but that's the key. You've got a brand. What happens is when your brand is consistent with your career, the world comes to you. But if you've got a help desk brand and you're trying to apply for a cloud engineer job, it's pretty rough. So I know there's a bunch of people out there that are pushing these CompTIA certs that don't get you hired and pushing you to start at help desk. Somebody told me to try that 25 years ago, and I said no. And they said, Mike, you can't be a network engineer. You got to start at either help desk or admin and put your time in and spend 3 to 5 years and learn the job. And I said, no. I said, I'm not going to go from medicine to this job to have somebody call and I'm going to pick up the phone and say, hey, is it turned on? Is there paper in it? Because that wasn't my career. That wasn't my desire. I love networking, wanted to be a network engineer. So I told people and they all laughed at me. What did I do? I studied networking. 6 months later, I was a senior network engineer. So no. LF. I think the only thing that helps you to land a job in your career is to train for your career. Goes back to something else. Don't learn to fly a plane unless you want to be a doctor. Learn to fly a plane if you're a pilot. So I don't think it'll help you at all. This week, I got a 20-year-old kid hired as a cloud architect. Didn't even have a college degree and never had a professional job in his life. But what he had was brains. He's smart. What he had was heart. In the program, he'd turn in an assignment, and I'd send it back to him 25 times and said, I want it better. I did. It was rough for this one guy a couple of times. He's like, Mike, am I ever going to get it right? I said, of course you are. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. If you keep it up, if you fight, you'll get there. So LF, train for the job you want and get it. Train for the career you want and get it. Love what you do. I want you to be so happy. Go get it. And yes, you'll become great at it. So train for your job, not somebody else's. Somebody else's job is not going to help you get your job ever. I mean, let's take me. I used to practice internal medicine. That was the first thing I ever did. If I told you I was a yoga instructor and a certified strength and conditioning specialist and a cloud architect, and you came to my doctor's office and said, Mike, I want you to take care of my blood pressure. And I told you I was a cloud architect, would that make you excited? No. So make people excited about you. Focus all your time, your effort, your energy, your love, your training budget all in one thing, the thing you want most. Guess what? You'll be the world's greatest at it. The world will fight for you. They'll pay you more than you can possibly imagine, and you will love every minute of your life. You'll be a thought leader, industry respected, and you can do anything. So that's my advice. It'll maximize your happiness. It'll maximize your pay. It'll maximize your career advancement. And I think you'll have a wonderful life. Thank you for the question, LF. I'm happy to answer further. John Wick 825. First, love that name. Fantastic movie. How are you today? Jason Ferris, I think you're asking the wrong question. Your question is, in my opinion, which will be the most in-demand career right now, architect or engineer? It's not the right question. The right question is, what do you want to do? That's the right question. There's an easy $100,000 there's an easy $100,000 cloud architect jobs out there right now, and every last one of them pays over 100,000, and some of them pay over 300,000. And there's at least 100,000 jobs out there like that. There's also a few 100,000 cloud engineer jobs. The key is not which is in demand; it's which one will offer you will you like. See, you could do either one. Now, I will tell you this: right now, going on economically, what's going on? Let's look at what has happened recently. We are in some of the most hyperinflationary environments this country, or at least the world, has seen in 40 to 50 years. It's seriously bad. We have interest rates that are rising, which we have to do to take out the hyperinflationary state. Producer prices are up nearly 10% year over year. Employee costs are costing employers almost 10% increase year over year. We've had our first negative quarter of GDP growth, which is scary. And if you adjust for inflation and you take real dollars instead of nominal dollars, it actually looks like we've had at least 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, if you adjust nominal GDP dollars to real GDP dollars. So that math is a little funny, but 1 negative quarter of GDP growth. Amazon reported a huge loss. Netflix reported a loss and is actually laying off people. Facebook earnings was not good, and they've been canceling people who they already hired. So now in these economic environments, Jason, what's the future look like for the next 2 years? Well, as follows. In a bad economy, they need architects. And here's why. So Jason, I've given you a plethora of bad economic news. If it gets worse, the first thing is CEOs are going to be calling me like crazy. My phone's going to be ringing all day, and it's going to be this CEO and this CEO, and they're going to say, Mike, these hyperinflationary costs, these economic environment is very business challenging. Can you help me cut costs? Can you help me lay off? Can you help me have my people do more with less? You know what's going to happen? I'm going to say, well, yes. We could migrate your cloud engineers to this part of the world because it doesn't matter where they're there. Your software engineers doesn't matter where they're in the world because they can code anywhere. Now your architects need to be in your region because they've got to visit customer sites every single day. Now, in bad economic times, the architects are needed, and the architects don't get laid off. And here's why, Jason. The architect is a sales role. So I'm working as a cloud architect. I meet with my customer, I ask them about their business, and I design a solution. I sell that solution to the customer. So let's say I sell a $100 million solution. Money comes to the company from me. So do you lay off your team that brings the money in during a recession? No. Who do you lay off? Your back-end engineers. Your back-end marketing people, not just people close to sales. Those corporate tech support resources, all those people that cost you money. Now, without those people, you got nothing because they're critical people, but they cost money. So, in a good environment, cloud architects and cloud engineers are in equal parity. We need both. But in rough economic times, companies still hire salespeople, and architects are under sales, but they lay off salespeople that cost money. So, in a bad economic time, your architects are much more stable than your engineers. Now, if your engineers are sales engineers, which is closer to architect, where they design, present, and sell, they are usually safe during economic times or recession. Now, when there's good economic times, companies hire more architects and a lot more engineers. And here's why. In good economic times, as fast as the architects can sell it, you need engineers to do it. And you don't want it to be wasted. So in good economic times, it's a boon for the engineers. But in rougher economic times, it's always better for the architects and the business executive, the executives that can make a business better. So look at it this way, Jason. Look at the economy. If minimum wage went up $5 an hour tomorrow, let's assume it happened. CEOs are going to call cloud architects. What kind of technology can I use to lay off 30% of my staff? Why, Mr. Customer? Well, I can't afford my staff at $5 an hour. So I have a restaurant. Can I get rid of the cashiers and have the self-checkout? Can I use a machine in front of these 10 people? That's what goes on. So Jason Ferris, the real critical thing is to understand macroeconomics. Microeconomics too, but macroeconomics. And macroeconomics, which will give you your supply and demand curves, will tell you the architect and the engineer are probably your two most critical people moving forward. The cloud architect is the network architect and the enterprise architect of the future. The cloud engineer is the network and data center engineer of the future. Two best roles in the future. That's why I've got programs for each. But rough economic times, things that are closer aligned to sales. Good economic times, more engineering. So keep that in the back of your mind. But the real key is, which do you love? So me, I like going to a customer, buying them lunch, giving a presentation, taking to a dinner, drinking some nice wine with them, maybe have a nice scotch, a steak, that kind of thing. That's my job as an architect. As an engineer, and I've been an engineer, I love engineers, respect engineers. You're in the office, you're behind the desk all day long, you're coding, configuring, etc. Some people love that. I've got a friend, Moses. He's one of the best engineers I've ever met. He loves the tech. I go to Moses's house in San Francisco, or Pleasanton, I should say. He's got every tech gadget. It's all wired through his house. His house is a plethora of Internet of Things. I said, Moses, would you like to be an architect like me? No, I really like what I do. He loves it. I walk into his house. I need a tour guide. Moses, can you turn the switch on for me? How do I flush this toilet? How do I turn your oven on? I can't even figure it out. But because that's him. I'm an architect. I design a solution. He loves the tech. The world needs both, Jason. They're equally important. So what's going to make you happy? Mark Twain said it, make your vacation your vocation and you'll never work a day in your life. I spent 7 years in school to learn how to practice medicine. I did it for a couple of years, not long. I liked networking, so I did it. I moved straight to networking. So do what you love. But either commands incredible demand. Architecture careers pay 2 to 3 times more long-term than engineering careers. But here's the thing. Do what you love. Do what you love. Do what you love. Love that question, Jason. If you ask more, I'll be happily add more color or flavor or commentary to the answer. I see the links up for the 30% off Memorial Day discount to remind me, take advantage of this opportunity seriously if you're trying to build yourself a career. Jamal Shankar, what is the bare minimum certification required by hiring managers for getting a generic cloud architect interview? Jamal, I've had students hired by AWS that haven't had any certifications. So, but they had knowledge and they had a good resume. So there's no minimum certification. I will say that our minimums that we recommend on our students are 1 cloud certification and 1 data center certification. So we'd like to see at minimum, like a certified solution architect professional from AWS or an Azure solution architect expert or a Google professional cloud architect. We also like to see an industry certification, like a CCNP for networking or a VMware professional from data center or a Red Hat certified engineer from data center. Again, just to show something from industry and something from cloud. Now, having said that, Jamal, my students, even those without any certifications, after we do the cloud architect career development branding of them, where we put the right skills and we talk about what they do and we add the right executive summaries, they get 10 to 15 interview requests per day, every single day. Now, they are getting requests for 2 reasons. One is they are known to be Go Cloud Careers, and people hire people just because they're at Go Cloud Careers because our brand is so strong. Where everybody else's brand is, here, I teach you the tech, and clients don't want that. Our brand is, we build the greatest architects with MBA-type business acumen, executive communication skills, leadership skills, soft skills, emotional intelligence, ROI modeling, etc. And I'm going to tell you, Jamal, if you had 18,000 certifications and didn't know how to sell, present, negotiate, and be CXO relevant, it wouldn't matter. Nobody get hired anyway. But is there a bare minimum certification to get an interview? I don't know. And the reason I said I don't know is all my students get 10 to 15 interview requests per day, certified or not certified. But they also got my name on them, my brand on it, Go Cloud Careers. And they also had us tune their resume. So I don't know. But I would say the only certifications that I recommend are the 3 that I told you. 1 cloud cert, only 1, not more than 1 ever. The Google Professional Cloud Architect, the Azure Solution Architect Expert, and the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. 1 of those 3. And again, they're super junior and intro level when it comes to real knowledge. I mean, they might seem like a lot, but they're not more than 5 to 10% of the skills you need for the job. But That's what I would say. But again, this is not a career certifications. I say certifications are 5% more than irrelevant, meaning 5% is the nice stamp on your resume, but the rest of it is totally, totally, totally irrelevant. And yes, in our training, we do provide training for the Azure Solution Architect Expert and the Google and the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. But remember, this is not a certification career. This is an executive career. You're not going to go to a doctor because they've got a cloud certification. And an architect who doesn't configure. So a certification which teaches the name of the service and how to configure that service is irrelevant. And Jamal, here's the thing. If I told my customer that I was going to set up an EC2 instance S3 bucket, and it was an executive, they literally laugh at me, I'd be fired and my replacement would say, thank you for your $300,000 job. Or $400,000 job, basically, if you're a good architect. Why? Because I can go to the customer and say, could you tell me about your 15,000 virtual machines? Can you tell me about your 10 petabytes of object storage and what you're doing with the metadata? How is that metadata in an environment? But if I say S3, I'm no longer a trusted advisor, and an architect's a trusted advisor. I'm a person with an agenda, jargon, which nobody likes, and things to sell. Not going to work. So I've given the answer on the certifications we like to help get an interview. But you got to remember, certifications will not get you these jobs. These jobs require knowledge, professionalism. So make sure you've got the right skills. The right skills. The right skills. Eat right, think right, train right, and you'll get hired. And Chris, feel free to bring in the next one.
Seems to be a common theme today.
Sorry to ask the question. So could you get a cloud architect job without any certification if you go through your course? Well, I'll give you an example. Jeffrey West went through my course, had 0 certifications, and he got hired as a cloud architect. Now, after he got hired, he passed the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, but he had no certifications. He was my student. And no, he was not working in tech before. No, he was not a cloud engineer. No, he was not a software developer. He was doing some kind of geospatial imaging, some kind of GIS images, where you survey the earth from some imaging, and from there they determine where people could drill. It was really scientist studies. Real smart guy, great guy. But he did it this year. You can see his story, along with many of the people who got cloud hired. Just like, was it Raul this week that you posted, who was a civil engineer that got his first cloud architect job with us?
Yes.
Or Romanik Ivan Tamba, our amazing student from Cameroon. Super, super, super amazing. He was certified, but he took my program. He got hired by AWS as an AWS solution architect. And when I got that job, he didn't even finish his college degree. And he said, can you wait for me to finish school in May? And they said, yes, Ivan Tamba, we like you so much. We're going to do it. Now, he's exceptional. He's a hero to me. He commuted 90 minutes back and forth to school each day while working a full-time job while attending my program. I love the guy. I respect him more than you can imagine. But he's another guy, 24 years old, no other jobs, no tech jobs, hired as a cloud architect. So yes, he could. But we're still going to make you get a certification. Why are we going to make you get a certification? And we're going to provide the training for you to do it anyway. I like knowing you got at least one on there because it helps us when it comes to getting you interviews. But you won't need it. There's a guy on here right now, Robert Welch. I know he gets 10 to 15 interview requests every single day of the week, and it's just to him right now saying, I'm not ready yet. But he's soon going to be ready because he's an amazing cloud architect, and he's also got an incredible security background, too. And we've gotten lots of people there this year. Robert Welch, cloud hired. He was the guy I was talking about. Chow from my team. Cloud hired Robert Welch. Okay, this is a great question. Is there a difference between a cloud migration architect and a cloud solution architect? Not really. So let's talk about the main thing that a cloud architect does is as follows. They design, present, and sell. Now, what is the majority of what we're doing? We're taking the stuff out of the network and the data center and moving to the cloud. That's 90% of what all cloud architects do. The stuff. Now, let's think about what that stuff is. The stuff is the network, That stuff is the servers, which is compute. That stuff is the containers, which is compute. That stuff is the storage, the block storage, the object storage, the file storage networks. That is the load balancers from the data center. That is the databases. That is the ERP applications, the CRM applications, etc. It is taking the real firewalls that you have in the data center, migrating them to virtual firewalls in the cloud, because we're not going to be using things like AWS WAF if it matters for enterprises. We're going to be using those same next generation firewalls from Cisco or from Palo Alto or from Practitioner that we're using in the data center on the cloud. The same IDS, IPS systems from the data center to the cloud, the same VPN concentrators, etc. The same BGP we're going to be using. So that's what we cloud architects do. Now, a cloud migration architect is a junior version of that, and all they do is just cloud migrations. So what you're going to notice is as following. The main thing of an architect is digital transformation, So a true cloud architect is only focused on that. So what it's really like is that I go interview a CEO, and I ask them about their business. I read their financial statements. I read their balance sheets. I read what the industry analysts are saying. I read what their competitors are doing, and I look at what they're doing. Now, they tell me what's going on, and I ask questions based upon my business knowledge of the industry. So as a cloud architect, I've got to be an industry expert. Then I need to examine the stuff they have. What's their compute, storage, security look like? And then I've got to think of the end state, the actual perfect end state. What do I want my customer to achieve? What's that innovation look like? Then I figure out the tech to make it happen, and then I move it over to the cloud. That's innovation. Now that's really what your cloud architect is doing, and that's a big job. And that's why at the bottom end, we're dealing with $120,000 to $150,000, and at the high end, we're dealing with $500,000 for a good cloud architect, enterprise architect, with these skills, because it's all the transformation. And which skills make you earn more? It's not your tech skills. It's your business acumen, your communication skills, your executive presence, your emotional intelligence, your leadership, et cetera, et cetera. That's the stuff that gets there. Now, a cloud migration architect is a cloud architect, but they're removing a lot of the digital transformation from this position. So they're just saying, just build the tech plan. Now, when you take that really good leadership person and you suck out most of the leadership and you make a migration, just make them a techie, figure the salary is going to come down 30-40%. Why? Because you're not doing as big of a role. You're not bringing in as much business. You're operating at a less strategic level. But here's the thing. That cloud migration architect could be a great job. Do that for a year or two and then move to a cloud architect. And that's still a good job. And you know why we like that job, or we say don't get a job in another field? Because all architect jobs in some way or shape or form involve design, present, and sales. And I don't care if you were a technical architect or a solution architect or a cloud architect or an enterprise architect, that still carries the architect with it. So as long as you're doing design, present, and sales, it's going to build your architecture career. But don't think that SysOps, which is maintenance, will help you with an architecture career. It won't. Don't think that DevOps, which is automation, and especially with software releases, will help you build an architecture career, because it won't. Don't think that being an expert on databases will help, because it's a different career. And don't think that being a cloud engineer is going to make it easier for you to cloud architect, because it won't. It's a different career. A very valid, powerful career, but a different career. So now you know. That's the main difference. But some cloud architects only do cloud migration stuff anyway, and in which case it could be the same job. But at the high end, a cloud architect should be doing more business. And at the low end, they're just doing the same thing as the cloud migration. By the way, you know what separates the architects that have a career like this versus the architects whose career sort of dies? Business acumen, leadership, communication skills, executive presence, ROI modeling, etc. So no matter what architect job you take, I recommend you do the high-value skills. Low-value skills equal more certifications. High-value skills equal more business skills. When and how much? Well, I'll give you some quick statistics. Did you know when you train a technology professional with soft skills, on average, it raises their salary 30%? Okay, so if the average cloud architect earns $160,000 a year, and we train soft skills, you're talking about an additional $55,000 a year just for soft skills. Oh, wait, that's $1.5 million over 30 years. A lot. If I told you that individuals with higher levels of emotional intelligence typically earn $29,600 more per year than people that are not trained in emotional intelligence, Now that's another 30,000. So 55 plus 30 is 85 times 30 years, well over 2.4 million. So Muli Palsen, and I love that name. Focus on the high value skills and build a career and make the world come to you. You're going to be incredible, and you're going to have a career that you're going to love and be paid for. And I'll be very happy for you. And when you're hired, tell me you're hired. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see you when you're cloud hired. Hi, Mike. What does it mean to actually build? And what does it take to become great at it? Well, okay. So let's take it for a minute outside of tech, and then I'll bring it into the tech. Let's talk about what real architects do, building architects. We've got building architects, and they design a building. Let's say it's a hotel, and they say it's going to be 42 stories tall. It's going to have this pointy thing at the top. It's going to look like a triangle. It's going to have lush gardens with a waterfall. It's going to have a glass elevator, and you can see outside from the building, and it's going to overlook the ocean. That's what the architect does. They make these beautiful blueprints. They used to be blueprints. Now they're CAD designs and they're computer, but whatever, they're blueprints. Now, one of those days, after the architect designs this beautiful thing, somebody has to make the hotel. So in comes a construction crew, and somebody's drilling in the ground with jackhammers, and they're drilling it, they're building it, and then they're pouring concrete and making a foundation. And then they hire some people to build the walls of the hotel and build the floors of the hotel and the plumbing and the electrician. That's the build. You know what the build is? The construction crew. There's a foreman, and there's a bunch of people that tell you how to do this stuff. Okay, so there's that. So that's the build. So now let's take it to the architect world. I go meet with a customer. I ask their business technical requirements, and I design a solution. Now, instead of being a big, beautiful building, my solution involves a cloud architecture. Now, one of those days, once I build it, I design it. What's that mean? A 300-page document for the technical people, a 2-page document for the C-level leaders, a 10-page document for the management team. Customer says, yes, Mike, I want to buy it. We leave. Then a team of cloud engineers come in, and they do the building, the construction crew. So what does that mean? They move the data over. They set up the virtual machines, which will most likely be Linux, configure the operating systems, add the users, set up the permissions, set up the logging to the syslog servers, for example, and store any IDS, IPS systems on the servers, disable unnecessary services on the servers, install the packages on the systems, patch the systems, setting up the virtual networking, setting up the VPC, configuring the IP addressing, the subnetting, the supernetting, using the design plans that were given to you by the architect, setting up the databases, setting up the firewalls, setting up the VPN concentrator, setting up the storage, configuring building, command line, management console, API stuff, building. So this means getting really good at the command lines of all the clouds. And how do you do that? Practice, practice, practice. Configure all day long. This gets good at using the management console. Get good at it all day long. Now this means you got to learn how to maximize Linux. And that's why we've got so much of it. So much of it. For that reason. Maximize Linux. Which means Linux administration, Linux scripting, because you got to automate. Now, you're also going to be using other software to automate, so you'll need to know Python because you're going to be writing scripts to automate things. You're also going to probably doing some infrastructure as code, so you'll need to learn some Golang and some Terraform, for example. And build means practice, 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 practice. So all day, every day, configure, 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 configure. That's how you become great at it. Now, here's the thing. You can't become great at everything. You can become great at one thing. If you try to do everything, you'll be horrible. You'll be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So figure out what you really want to do and configure that. So you can't be the big data person, the network person, the security person, the database person in the same person. You can't. In fact, if you're really good at IAM, that's all you do. IAM is a role by itself. So the key for you is really Figure out exactly what you did, what you want to do. Configure, hands-on, and more hands-on. That's how you get good at building. Now, if an architect would do that one of these days, nobody would be interested because architects don't build. But if you want to be a cloud engineer, because you like cloud engineering, and I love cloud engineering, it's just not my career, build, and you'll be great at it. Byron Ross. Hi, Mike. I'm a huge sports fan, specifically football. Are there sports organizations that are in need of cloud architects? Absolutely. Is that a position in need of the sports industry? It sure is. So, Byron Ross, and I don't know whether you're talking about American football or European football, but whatever the case is, yes. So I remember me and my buddy Daryl designing an architecture for the Houston Rockets game because all sports teams have big tech needs. So yes, they definitely need it. So whether it's football or whether it's baseball or whether it's cricket or whether it's soccer, if you call it that, or whether it's hockey, there's always needs and money there. So the answer is yes. Now here's something even better, Byron. If you actually have industry knowledge, maybe you played semi-pro football or something like that, then you're even better because you know the needs. How do the teams travel? What kind of information needs to go with the teams, for example? So yes. So that's what we're really talking about. So that's what we're talking about. So the answer is yes, there are jobs for sports teams. But I want you to understand this. That's a very limited market because how many teams are there? Not so many. So if you're dealing with potentially 200 teams and maybe some networks like ESPN and some Fox News and Fox Sports and pay-per-view, it's a small number of businesses. And by comparison, they're much smaller businesses than other businesses. So it's there. But generally speaking, I wouldn't say the sports or the entertaining industry is the best one for you to go to. But if you are a professional athlete, for example, and you have much more experience, then yes. Gaming and gambling websites, well, now you're starting to get into companies that have real technology needs because they're big in tech. So events and travel organizers, sports conferences, things like a Ticketmaster. Yeah, you're dealing with big tech needs. And yes. So there's that. But I'm still going to tell you, if you focus on the Fortune 100 companies or big industries such as finance or healthcare or retail or consumer products, you'll have an easier time, or transportation, you'll have an easier time getting a higher paying job. But Byron, here's what I say. Do what you love. If you make your vocation your vacation, you'll never work a day in your life. So what I would say is build a career of your dreams. Get a job as a cloud architect. Do it for a year or two. While you're there, if you like it, show your sports knowledge. Start blogging about sports. Start talking about the technology that can improve sports. Start showing your extreme knowledge of, hey, wait, we can optimize this betting collaboration thing through this blockchain technology, which would be really cool. We could promote this and this, which would be really cool, et cetera. So, yes, do it if you like it, but just understand the caveats. Don't hold out for one of these jobs. Get a cloud architect job, train for it, work for a year or two, build your brand. And when you've got a brand, you can start getting these jobs that are different. Like, for example, you'd think I'd have been in healthcare my whole life, which would have made sense, but I wasn't. So, I practiced internal medicine for a little while, Byron. Left internal medicine, worked as a network engineer at an ISP, worked as a network architect at a place on Wall Street, the largest market maker in the NASDAQ, worked at Comcast, the largest cable provider in the US, as an network architect, worked at Riverstone Networks as a network architect for mostly service providers, joined Cisco as an architect for the banking industry. And then one day Cisco said, hey, Mike, we're interested in a healthcare vertical. Are you interested, given that you can practice medicine? I went, yes. And that's Byron. That's when my career took off like a rocket ship. So get your first architect job, get some experience, and then gradually try and get something, the job of your dreams, and do it. I encourage it. But get your first job first, because the first job is the hardest to get, and don't be too picky in the first one. You're going to do great, Byron. Oh, thanks, Mike. Ever since you started cutting, you've seen a lot of people say it's impossible. Many people, they get you a help just up first. LF, everybody told me I couldn't do it too. And I've got about 1,000 students right now, and all of them have been told they can't do it, and they get hired every single day. So, here's what I don't like. Everybody will tell you you can't win. So, LF, I was told I could never be a network engineer. You have no degrees in tech, no experience in tech. You got to start at help desk. Spend 4 or 5 years that, and then maybe after that, you can get a network admin job for 4 or 5 years. Then you can get a junior network engineer job, a network engineer job, and then a senior one. My first job was a senior network engineer. It didn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Here's the key. Everyone will tell you you can't do anything great. I tell my students, don't even tell your family members. And they're like, yeah, because they keep telling me no. And every time my students get hired, they're like, I'm hired, I'm hired, I'm hired, I'm cloud hired. So LF, you can do anything you want. But I'm going to tell you this. In order to get these jobs, you got to learn the right things. You got to focus on the right things. And you got to pour your heart and soul into it. I mean, heart and soul. So I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm going to say if you do the work, you will achieve great things in your life. And I'm even going to go further. I'm going to say the only thing that holds any of us back is ourselves. Ourselves. We tell people we can't do it. LF, I was involved in a training accident. I was training in Israel. I got invited to train there. I'm a martial arts expert. I've got 30 years of martial arts experience in my life. I went to Israel. I was part of a Krav Maga delegation, and we were told there. While we were there, I shattered the tarsometatarsal ligament that holds the bones in the foot in place. When I got back to the U.S., I was told, Mike, this is a freak accident. You're never going to walk again. Then LF, 3 months later, my Lisfranc dislocation, which was inoperable at the time, turned into something called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. I then lost the use of my left hand and my left foot. Now, this is in addition to my 5 herniated discs, 2 torn rotator cuffs, labral tears in both foot, and a neuropathy. And I went to the doctors, and here's what they said to me, LF. Mike, would you like a morphine pump? Would you like a prescription for this? Would you like a prescription for this? And I said, no. And they said, Mike, you're crazy. You're in chronic pain. And I said, I don't care about the pain. I said, if you give me this, I won't get better. And they said, Mike, you'll never walk again. You're never going to be able to sit in a chair again. That's how bad your injuries are. And I said, no. I said, you just motivated me to now work out 8 hours a day. So in pain, I went to 6 to 8 hours of physical therapy for 6 years straight. And then 2 years, it was only 4 hours of physical therapy. So 8 years of physical therapy. Guess what? Now, I've gotten well over 100 people hired this year as cloud architects. Well over 100. Almost everybody had a 6-figure job, except 1 or 2 that chose not to finish the program because while they were in the program, they were getting network engineer jobs and other jobs, and they just needed money and they took it. But that's okay. They stayed in our program until they get their next job. I may not walk very far, but I'm sitting in a chair here right now with you all. Now, granted, I did 3 hours of yoga this morning in a 130-degree room, and I will also sit in a 160-degree sauna tonight for an hour to be able to mitigate the pain. But I'm here with you, helping people get hired every day of the week, and it's my dream to get the world cloud hired. It's my dream to get the world cloud promoted, and I got to tell you, I'm close to achieving this dream. You know why? Every day somebody tells me they're hired, so that's my world. So don't let anybody hold you back. Fight, 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 fight. And when an obstacle is in your way, look at that obstacle, obliterate that obstacle. And if you can't move that obstacle, jump over that obstacle, go around it, adapt, improvise, overcome, conquer your dreams, and get everything you want to and deserve in life, LF. Build the career of your dreams, get it all. I want the best for you. I want the best for everybody here, or I wouldn't be here 3 times a week talking about answering questions for free. Build the life of your dream, LF. And when you get this great cloud architect job, you tell me. You say, Mike, I'm cloud hired, and I'll have some tears of joy for you like I do every single time. You'd think I wouldn't cry every time, but I do. You'd think after getting somebody hired every day for years, I wouldn't cry anymore, but it excites me every time. And I know what it was like to go from poor to having my first best tech job, and I want you all to get it. That's why we're here. Let's get you cloud hired off. Kabanga, so happy to join the Go Cloud Career with 30% discount. I look forward to meeting you. Can't wait to see you in class. Hopefully you'll be in class tomorrow. I get to see you on Zoom. It's going to be so much fun. You know what? I really can't wait. 8 months from now, and you say, Mike, I'm cloud hired. That's going to be a fun celebration. I celebrate all the cloud hires. Can't wait to see you in class. Ta. Hey, Mike, you have already answered this one, but I missed it. That's okay. As a cloud engineer, do we need to be CCNP certified, or the networking class from the cloud engineering course is good enough? Ta, let me be fair. Got it, Chris. So, as a rule, we're looking for knowledge. These are professional careers. Professional careers are not built on certification. They're built upon knowledge. Now, having said that, if you had a CCNP certification, I promise you, it'll make you stand out. And why do I like these networking certifications? So let's talk about the following reasons. Reason one, the Cisco certifications are not like cloud certifications. You actually have to know something to pass them. The cloud certifications, I could send you to 2 websites. You could buy a practice test on that website, pass the exam by the end of the week, and know nothing. But the networking ones are a little bit different. Now, the reason the networking ones are different is they ask different kinds of questions. So when you're dealing with a Cisco certified network professional, they're not going to ask you a name of a service question. That's silly. They might say, what type of LSAs exist in a not so stubby area? And you should know a not so stubby area, especially if it's not so stubby with no summary, might have a type 1 LSA, a type 2 LSA. And you can have a type 7 LSA, which is the equivalent of a type 5 LSA, but in a not so stubby area. Now, you have to actually know something to answer that question. I'm also going to tell you that we've managed to get a complete AWS certified solution architect, associate, and professional in a 500-page book. And the CCNP is approximately 10,000 pages from start to finish. So when we talk about networking, we're talking about a lot. So is that beneficial to you? Great, yes. But, even if you just had 2 certifications, and we always tell you how to get 2. We tell you we want the one cloud one, which is a professional one, and we want one networking one, data center one, or Linux one. And why is that? We really want to give you a competitive advantage on your resume. I think the Cisco ones are by far the best. And that's why we did a free CCNA boot camp on our YouTube channel so people could pass that exam. But also, what we're teaching in that cloud engineering course is way, way, way deeper than basic CCNP stuff. The BGP course that I taught in this week's this Sunday's cloud engineer course was CCIE level. And what we're going to do next week, that's going to be CCIE level as well. So if you didn't get any certifications, and all the certification you had was like an Azure Solution Architect Expert, which is free to take the exam, that would still be enough. But really, really, really want to get you at least one other certification. We like one cloud and one other non-cloud. And in the non-cloud, we like the CCNA, CCNP. We like the Red Hat Certified Engineer for the Cloud Engineer. We like a VMware Certified Professional for the Cloud Engineer. But really what it's about is the following: building the brand. Now, Tang, you may have other certifications. For example, if you got a Linux Pro certification, don't do it. Now, the only certifications we don't like seeing on the resume are CompTIA certifications. We generally remove them. There's nothing wrong with CompTIA certifications at all, but employers don't seem to find them on their wish list of things they care about. So because of that, we don't like them there. We like things that they do care about. What certifications do executives like? I can tell you right now. They like the Certified Solution Architect Professional. They like the CCNP. They like the Azure Solution Architect Expert, the Google Professional Cloud Architect. They like them. They like the CISSP, which we like, the CCSP, the CISM. And then there's usually 1 or 2 other certifications that are in the top 10, but they're not relevant for us. So those are the ones that we like. Why? They're the deeper ones. But more importantly, they're the ones that are always talked about in CIO magazine. Why aren't we so infatuated with CIO magazine? Well, look at it this way. The CEO sets the strategy for the company. The CIO runs the technology, the IT department, and basically executes the CEO's mission with IT stuff. Okay, so now think about that. So the CIO basically runs all the hiring and the whole division of tech. So what the CIO reads is what they hire. So look through CIO magazine, you're going to get a pretty good example of what the CIOs want to hire. But we also talk to lots of recruiters constantly, lots of hiring managers, etc. So they're what we hear. But you'll have enough from our course to get hired. But if you want to have that certification, we would recommend at least 2 certifications, a cloud one and a non-cloud one. And we provide enough networking training for you to do the CCNA easily. And apparently I'm spilling water all over me today. So this is how excited I am about talking about networking, because I love networking so much. Yeah, but we give you enough to get you hired, Tad. And of course, all my cloud engineers are going to stand head and shoulders above everybody else when they graduate soon. While we're at it, we're going to run a completely free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp in June. Join us. It's going to be a ton of fun. And it's free. And it's going to be lots of training experience. 20 minutes of class, 10 minutes of questions and answers. Just like a real bootcamp without the $5,000 price. Completely free. Sign up. The link's in the description below and the chat box. And then, Chris, you can go to the next one. Ashish, hello, sir. Please tell me the process to be an expert in AWS Cloud. Ashish, you can't become an expert in the AWS Cloud because there's at least 40 different careers in the AWS Cloud. So you would need at least 15 people's lifetimes of, say, 80 years to be an expert in all the things in the cloud. So because one can't become an expert in all things, tell me what you're interested in becoming an expert in, and then I can tell you. Would it be cloud networking? Would it be cloud security? Would it be identity and access management? Would it be databases? So cloud is like saying, I want to be an expert in IT. And I say, what part of IT? So Ashish, tell me what you'd like to do and I can help you. Because right now, cloud is literally speaking 50 different careers. And each one of those careers could use 50 years experience to truly become an expert in it. So in fact, it takes 10,000 hours in one small dish to be an expert at it. So tell me what you're interested in and then I can help you. But you can't become an expert in AWS Cloud unless you're a vampire and can live, say, 600 to 800 years to do so. So tell me what you'd like to become an expert in. AWS security. And then I can help you.
So we're going to have to create a certification vampire meme.
Yeah, I think we are.
Yep. Now that you've just said that out loud, I'm going to have to make that.
Yeah, let's do it. The good news is Ashish just told us databases. So now let's deal with what Ashish is really asking the question. So Ashish, you just told me you want to become an expert in AWS databases. And I'm going to tell you all the reasons why you should never do that. So when you're a real cloud architect or you're a real customer using the cloud, you've got choices. Now, you have standards that you could use across your data centers and clouds, or you can use proprietary solutions that will lock you into a problem and you're never going to be able to get there. So let's think about the cloud. Ashish, if I told you that 87% of customers use more than one cloud, and Ashish, if I told you that 97% of customers plan on using more than one cloud at the end of the year. So now let's think of the AWS databases. Amazon Aurora, we can't use it. Amazon DynamoDB, we can't use it. Why can't we use these things, Ashish? Because they are proprietary. And I can't run DynamoDB in the Azure cloud and AWS cloud. So for me, every one of those AWS databases is complete and total trash. Now, it's not that they're not good databases at all. So, but let's be fair. So if you wanted to become good at databases, I would suggest you learn databases. So I would become a master in the Oracle database. I would become a master. I would really study MySQL and get really good at it, setting it up. I would be good at Postgres because you're going to be using it all the time. I would be really good at learning Microsoft SQL. Then I would learn the following. MongoDB, because everybody's using it as a NoSQL database. I would get really good at understanding Apache Cassandra and when to use them. I would get really good at mapping and reduction functions, which is typically like a Python Spark script, for example. And I would master extraction, translation, and loading tools, and not cloud proprietary ones either. Now, when you're creating databases, Ashish, you're going to be dealing with the following. For relational databases, you're going to be dealing with read replicas. You're going to be caching. So because you're going to be caching, I would get very good at Redis cache, not Elasticache, Redis cache, the original one. Now, when it comes to queuing, AWS has a really exceptionally good commuting service called SQS. Guess what? It's proprietary. So can we use it? No, 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 no. So swap out with Kinesis. Now, that's what you're talking. Now, you just said you're not interested in coding. And if you're not interested in coding, you don't want to be working in databases, because databases are going to require a tremendous amount of coding. You want a different career. And that's why I asked you what career you want. So if you are interested in databases, that's how you're going to do it. But in databases, you're going to have to know database programming ETL tools, Python Spark scripts, et cetera, and that, because that's a major part of the job. So that's why I'm saying, if you tell me the job that you're interested, I could help you. If you give me something else, for example, like networking, I could tell you, and you can do networking without coding, but for database work, you got to code. And that's why I said, realistically speaking, what do you want to do? Now, that could be anything. DevOps is a job where you're going to have to code. And you're going to have to, and not only are you going to have to code for DevOps, you're going to have to be 1,000 times better programmer for DevOps than databases, because a good DevOps engineer has to be a software engineer first and have years of software engineering experience. And then they learn the software release tools, such as Git and Jenkins and Spinnaker, et cetera, et cetera. But you got to be a software developer first. That's why I'm telling you, what kind of career would you like? Ashish, I'm going to also tell you this. There's only one career on the couple careers on the cloud that don't require coding. And that's architect work, as a cloud architect work, and sales reps and cloud program managers. So if you want to be a program manager, meaning a project manager, I could tell you how to do that. If you want to be an architect, I can tell you how to do that. And if you want to be a sales rep, I can tell you how to do that. Or if you wanted to be an engineering manager, I could tell you how to do that. But DevOps, architecture career. DevOps coding career. Database is coding. So the key, that's why I'm asking you what you're interested in, because I need to know your exact job. Because I'm telling you this, Ashish, you could spend the next 50 years on DevOps and still learn a lot. You could spend the next 50 years in databases and still learn. You could spend the next 50 years in just BGP and still learn. So give me a little more information about what you'd like to do. Do you like to sell? Do you like to design? Do you like to build? Do you want to be writing thought leadership papers? Do you want to be doing ROI modeling? Do you want to be doing sales? Do you want to do a hybrid between sales and engineering? You give me that, I can give you a plan. But those are the factors. So I'm trying to architect your career. So you said you love scripting. So scripting is going to be required for cloud engineering. And Linux is not DevOps at all. DevOps is a totally different career. So I don't think DevOps you have any interest in if you desire not to be interested in coding, because DevOps is going to require about 50 times the coding experience as the cloud engineer or the database engineer. So tell me what you like, I can help you. But the only jobs that I know that where you're not going to be coding in today's world are network architect, cloud architect, any kind of architect in general, because architects don't touch the tech. Now, you said you're interested in scripting. Now, the people that are interested in scripting have two options. You could be a cloud engineer, you could be a Linux engineer on the cloud and do plenty of Linux scripting, but not DevOps. DevOps will force you to know more coding than you possibly ever imagined. You could be a Linux admin. You could be a Linux engineer with just Linux and scripting. So tell us what you like. Design, present, and sell, that's architecture. Great, you can do that. No coding whatsoever. But there's different kind of architects too. So give us a little more information on your goals. And it's so important. It's like going to the airplane and saying, if you looked at the cloud as an airport, okay, so Ashish, you said you learned some DevOps tools. How can you make it a primary skill? Well, first, become an excellent software developer first. So first, you're going to have to become an expert programmer, not just Python, probably some Java, all those other really important skills. You do that for a good year or two. Then, because remember, DevOps is the most technical career out there. So go become an expert programmer first. After you become an expert programmer, then learn the DevOps tools, Jenkins, Spinnaker, Git, and then also learn the ones on and off the cloud. Then get a basic intro certification like a DevOps professional to show you've got it. But none of this will be good unless you're a great software engineer first. So if you want to make DevOps your primary skill, master software engineering first, become an expert programmer, and then do that. Now, this DevOps is not write a PowerShell script and be good. This is not write a Python script and be good. This is serious programming for DevOps engineers. That's why people don't get the DevOps jobs either, because they take a certification and they think they just learn DevOps tools. No. Architecture for example, requires your business knowledge, your leadership knowledge, and your network and data center knowledge, because we're designing. DevOps means massive software engineering skills first, because you need all that to understand how do you optimize. You can't automate software releases if you don't understand software. So you learn some DevOps tools, great. That'll be an intro. Now learn how to be a software engineer. And then after that, really learn how to master the DevOps tools. Learn how to master your code, compile your code, all that stuff, because that's all DevOps. And then learn all the tools. That's what you're going to need to do. So software engineer, spend 1 to 2 years on it. Spend another 6 months on the DevOps tools off the cloud, another 6 months on the DevOps tools on the cloud, and then you'll be good. And I don't care what any trainers are telling you. Here's the reason. I speak to thousands of hiring managers and recruiters every year, and they're telling me this is what they want. So I don't worry about trainers, and I especially don't worry about certification providers. And here's the reason why. I literally have taken thousands of their people over the years and gotten their people hired they couldn't get hired. So DevOps engineers are software engineers first. And if you were a full stack developer, I'd say this is a great job. If you were an application engineer, programmer, I would say it's a great job, but you're not going to get a DevOps job without this. This is a hands-on tech job. Not like an architect job, which is not a tech job. It's a business job. This, you got to be a great software engineer first. Dare, over there in Scotland, how are you? Oh, you passed your SAA CO2, fantastic. You've been in our free training. I'm so happy to see you here. Dare, fantastic, congratulations. And if I remember correctly, you're over there in Scotland. Because I always see you. You attend our boot camps. I love having you here, Dare. I am thrilled. I typically think Dare. I typically think Nigeria, although not always, but I typically think from that background. And I think you're in Scotland, so congratulations. We're so happy. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Please keep coming around. We love having you here, Dare. Haven't been to Scotland in a little while, but hope to get there soon. And let me talk about why I started this company. So about a year ago, about a year and a half ago now, I was setting up a cryptocurrency data center, and I was asked by the person that owned the data center, hey, by the way, Mike, you brought in like 4 of your interns, and oh my God, they're amazing. My kid's graduating college. Could you help them get hired? And I said, sure. So what I said was, I think you should become a cloud architect. It's the world's greatest career. And he says, okay. So what I did is I said, I will spend 2 to 4 hours with Nathan Vons every Friday. And I said, and I will buy him the 3 best-selling courses. So I bought him the three best-selling courses, which everybody knows what they are. After 3 days, the kid calls me and he says, Mike, I set up an EC2 instance in S3 bucket. And I said, what is it? And I said, he didn't know. He said, what is it? I said, I don't know. I said, no, seriously, tell me. What is it? And he says, I have no idea. And I said, Nathan, you couldn't possibly watch a course that would teach you how to set stuff up, teach you the name of the service and how to configure it, not teach you what it is. And he says, watch it. I watched these courses in horror. I then watched these people's following on social media. Here's how you get hired. Get all these 18 million certifications. I actually made a video on my YouTube channel. It was one of my first videos that said, here's how you get a cloud architect job when you have no experience. And I told everybody what to do. within an hour. I had like 50 to 100 requests. Over the next few days, I had thousands of them. They said, please help me, Mike. I've taken this person's certification course, can't get hired. I've taken this person's certification course and can't get hired. I've taken this person's certification course and can't get hired. And then I actually watched what these certification providers were telling people. Here, to get an architect, study SysOps, which is maintenance, DevOps, which is automation, become a cloud developer, and then the architects. But architects don't configure or maintain. And then what I said, I don't like this. None of this is real. So then what I do, I interviewed 1,000 people trained from these programs. 50 of them were 10x AWS certified. How many do you think were hireable? Zero, a big fat zero, not a single one. Why? All of them knew the name of the service, and all of them knew how to do it. And I was horrified that certification providers were telling people, buy more training, buy more training, buy more training. We're never going to get you hired, as if they were coaching careers. I saw one telling people the secret to getting hired is your resume. That's all great. You're going to go in an interview, but you're not going to get hired. So there's that. So for me, I interviewed 1,000 people, made my course, and you know what happened? I get a student hired every single day as a cloud architect, every day. So I'm really brutal on knowing the skills for your career. I don't care what coaches and trainers say, because if they were working, they'd know. When people that are cloud engineers are advising on cloud architects, I say they can't. It's not their job. Just like a cloud architect can't advise a cloud engineer unless they've been an engineer themselves. I spent a lot of time as an engineer. I know engineering. But you got to know your career. You can only advise your career. For the people that lock themselves in a room, get themselves 7 to 10x AWS certified and think they're going to teach networking, they're hurting their customers because they're not teaching what they know. The graduates don't know. So I'm trying to be blunt and tell you what you need to know, because I want you hired. I had a student, I had to tell him 15 times, resubmit the same project, but he finally got hired. And that's the reason. It takes guidance, it takes honesty, and it takes integrity. And I just want you hired. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm being so open with you. Even if it doesn't always sound positive. I'm a pretty positive person. You guys can all do anything. And that's why I'm being so honest. I want you all hired. All hired. And promoted and paid more than anybody else's architects, because you're here on my channel and I want to make your life better. Chris, if you want to bring in the next question. Okay, one word design. I would desire to be a better architect. What is our daily practice? I meant. I don't know what you mean by that. So if you could explain to me what you mean. If you're asking me what a day in the life as a cloud architect, tell me that. If you're asking something else, tell me that. One of those days, I just don't understand the question. But clarify it for me and I'll answer it. Bad Weather Freak. Hey, Mike, you're about to start the firewall videos. You're a great teacher. Fantastic, Bad Weather Freak. Do the firewalls. I think you're going to learn a lot. It's super exciting for me. Fantastic, and thank you so much. Lid. I became a network engineer after 6 months, and within 6 months after that, I was a lead network architect. Then I worked as a network architect for about a decade. Then I worked as an enterprise architect, and we were designing that. And then there was cloud architect. But here's the thing, Lid. The first cloud I worked on was in 1996. It was Frame-Relay. The next cloud I worked on was ATM in 1998. The next cloud I worked on was specified in the IETF RFC 2547, which was the BGP cloud. The cloud after that I worked on was the VPLS cloud, which my team at Riverstone and the Juniper people put together. So I've been dealing with clouds now for 25 years. The cloud is not new. Now I went from engineer to architect, and I became a cloud architect, not a cloud engineer. I didn't need to work as a cloud engineer. I was an architect. So that's what I did. What did I do to become a cloud engineer, network engineer in 6 months? I'm going to tell you what I did, and I'll tell you what didn't work, and then I'll tell you what I did do. So I did first what everybody does, and it was the worst thing possible, Lynn. So I decided I wanted to be a network engineer. So what did I do? I called my local computer school and took this 5-day, $5,000 wasted Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer Bootcamp. 5 days later, there was 4 tests I passed it, and now I'm a Microsoft Certified Professional and a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. You know who's interested in me? Nobody. Then, Lid, I locked myself in a room for 4 days, read a CCNA book, went and took the CCNA exam and passed it within the first week and was done with it. Then, Lynn, I took a 10-day, $11,000 CCNP boot camp. And guess what I did? Sent it away, took the 4 exams, got CCNP certified, and I went, okay, now I got lots of certs. So then I wanted more because, certifications were going to get me a job, right? No. So I took the Cisco Certified Design Associate exam, the architect one. Guess what? Nobody's interested. And after that, I took the Cisco Certified Network Design Professional, the CCDP course. So now I've got 3 associate certifications, the CCNA, the Microsoft Certified Professional, and the Cisco Certified Design Associate. 3 professional certifications, the Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer, the CCNP, Cisco Certified Network Professional, and Cisco Certified Design Professional. I sent out 5 resumes. Lid, you know what happened? Rejected. So, Lid, what did I do? I then had an idea. I called a tech recruiter who spent 45 minutes on the phone with me, told me exactly what the perfect hiring manager wanted. I was blown away. I sent a $100 gift to this person. I then called 49 more tech recruiters. And I asked them, what do you want in the perfect carrier network engineer? And they told me. So then what I do? I did a gap analysis and I said, 50 recruiters said hiring managers want this. This is me. I did a gap analysis and I said, they want this and this is me. I filled in the gaps. I went on my first interview and I got hired as a senior network engineer. First interview. Now, what have I done since then, Lid? Well, I've asked at least 10,000 hiring managers, what do you want in the perfect employee? I've asked them networking, security, and cloud. So I know. Then after that, you know what I did? I asked recruiters and hiring managers for 25 years straight. So, Lid, what I do is the same way the Japanese overtook the auto industry. The reason the Japanese killed the American car industry was as follows. The American car company said, I can make this car for $12,000 and I'm going to charge you $24,000. Nobody bought the American car because nobody wanted it. And now what happened? The Japanese said, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, could you tell us what you like? And they said, I want rounded edges. I want this, and I'm willing to pay $14,000. And then Toyota said, well, let's figure out how we can make what the customer wants and still make money at $14,000. Who won? Well, the American auto companies filed bankruptcy and had to be bailed out by the government, and the Japanese auto companies did well. So I did the same thing. I ask and constantly ask the customer, what do you want in the perfect employee? And we constantly make sure that our employees are exactly what the hiring manager wants. And that way, it's like when my wife walks into the shoe store and she sees shoes and her eyes open up and she says, I'm buying these, they're what I want. So that's what we do, and that's what we get people hired. So that's what I did. And that's how for the last 20 years, I help people getting hired. I ask the customer what they want, and I train my students according to the dream wish list of the hiring manager. Hope I answered your question. How many hours in the boot camp every day? Well, that to me is not necessarily a relevant question, and here's the reason why. We let somebody stay on our program until they get hired, or up to 12 months, and I do that for a reason.
They're asking about the boot camp.
Oh, our boot camp, 3 hours per day. The free boot camp is going to be 3 hours per day, but we might do some bonus lectures outside of those things. You never know. Who knows? Sometimes we do a bonus BGP or a bonus subnetting based upon aggregate things. I'm not saying we will or won't, but it'll be at least 3 hours a day. It'll be free, and it's going to be lots of fun for the Azure Solution Architect Bootcamp. Jacob A., I have a network and a developer background. Well, that's really challenging. I've never met a person that really had a networking and developer background. I've known people that did a little of both. So the real key is, for me, a networking background is I know how to design BGP architectures. I know how to design OSPF architectures. I know how to traffic engineer in BGP. I know how to do RSVP signaling for MPLS tunnels, et cetera. So that's what I think is networking. Developer background, I think, is someone that's a software engineer. What I suggest for you is, what do you like? And, I get asked this question every day, Mike, I used to do this. What should I do? And I say at the same time every day, what do you want to do? You're like, but yesterday I did today. And I say, Jacob, what did you eat last night for dinner? And you could tell me, and I say, how does that affect what you ate today for dinner? And you're saying that doesn't at all. And that's the thing. What I suggest is doing what you love. I practiced internal medicine, didn't love it, and I became a network engineer a couple weeks later. What do you want to do? Tell me that. What do you want to do? I'll build you a roadmap to get there, but it's got, what do you want to do? It's not based on your past. It's based upon what do you want to do? Your past doesn't define your future. It's like saying, Mike, I used to drive a Honda. What can I drive now? And I say, anything you want. So the key is, it doesn't matter. If you learn the right skills, you can do what you want. Networking and developing are about as far apart as possible. Networking would lead itself well towards lots of different careers, and so would development. But the key is, what do you want to do? So that's the key. I will tell you that the networking careers and the development careers are opposites. So the careers that each background would give you would be opposite, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, I've had geospatial imaging people hired as cloud architects. I've had nurses hired as cloud architects. I've had people that were working as waiters hired as cloud architects. So what you did in your past does not define your future. What I ate for lunch, which was some shrimp and lettuce and spinach and some tomatoes and onions and some apricots, does not affect what I'm going to eat for dinner. Hopefully it'll be healthy. I don't know. So what would you like to do? And then I'll tell if you build the map to get there. Suresh, you're a full stack engineer and you want to move to a cloud platform. Is it a good move? I don't know. What do you like? And do you need to go to be a cloud architect or a cloud engineer? What do you want to be? Your full stack engineering has nothing to do with cloud architecture, but truth be told, it has nothing to do with cloud engineering either. But that doesn't matter. What do you want to do? You want to be the person that designs, presents, and sells, does business modeling, then you're an architect. Do you want to be a person that builds the systems out on the cloud? Then you're an engineer. What do you like to do? That determines what you should do. Is it a good move to cloud? I don't know. Do you love being a software developer? If you're a full stack engineer and it's the job of your dreams, then don't change. If you wake up every day, Suresh, and say, I am so thankful to be alive, I'm a full stack developer, stay a full stack developer. If you wake up every morning and say, I hate this, what would I like to do? Then I'd say, what would you like to do? Would you like to design, present, and sell? Then you're an architect. Do you want to be behind the computer screen all day and configure and build and code? Then you're an engineer. But what's more interesting to you? In either case, you're going to need training. In either case, it's not going to be just an overnight switch. So what would you like to do? Past doesn't define your future. So tell me what you want to do and I can help you get there. But telling me what your background is, that's like telling me what you ate for dinner last night. Don't need it. What I do need is to help you get to your future. I need to know what you want to do. Then I can give you a plan. While we wait for Suresh to tell us what he's interested in, Chris, go to the next one. D-Money, baby, you recently got an internship as an enterprise architect? Any tips? Yeah. Learn to be CXO relevant, meaning know what to say to the CEO, CFO, CIO, CTO. Learn how to sell. Learn how to perform ROI modeling. Learn how to increase your executive presence. For example, my name is Mike and I'm a cloud architect. Hi, I'm Mike and I'm a cloud architect. They're different. Learn how to lead teams of 50 to 100 people because you're going to do that as an architect. Learn how to do some program management, project management as an architect. Learn how to sell. Learn how to build a business case. Learn how to get people motivated to do work that don't work for you. Focus on your soft skills. Focus on your emotional intelligence to develop it. Focus on your empathy skills. Those are the skills that are going to help you as an enterprise architect. That's what I would do. That's what I've done. And by the way, spent about $250,000 learning those skills between me and the company that paid for it. And the payback period was about a year to get paid back for the $250,000 of education to learn these skills. So that's how much they matter. Go after your dreams. Love it. And have a wonderful, wonderful job. Chris, you can go to the next one. Zaire, how you've been learning data analysis, SQL, and since basic Python programming, but interested in learning the cloud and want to know if it's benefit for me. So Zahira, it depends on what job you're interested in. If you're learning data analysis, SQL, and Python, and you want to become an architect, they are not relevant skills. If you're learning, you desire to be a data scientist, well, learning data analysis, SQL, Python, R, machine learning, and a few other things would be interesting, and my team could provide more information than me. But it's all dependent upon what job you want. For an architect, these are 100% irrelevant skills. But for someone that was working on databases, this is incredibly useful. For someone that wants to do some kind of data analyst, data science, data architect, these also could be somewhat useful. So the key is, what job do you want? Because you're just mentioning technologies. Technologies don't drive the job. You determine the job you want and you fill in the gaps. So it's kind of like if I told you, hey, I know how to read a 12-lead EKG. I know how to check cardiac enzymes. I know how to read an X-ray. I know how to read an MRI, which is true. I know how to diagnose. I know how to prescribe medications. Great. Mike, is that helpful in cloud computing? Not at all. At all, seriously. Now, if somebody's sick and they come to my house, yeah, it's very useful. So the key is, they're useful skills that you learn, but they're in a different career. So tell me which career you want, and I can tell you if it benefits you or not. But just AWS cloud, that's meaningless. Why? The cloud is a network and a data center. So every job that existed in the network and the data center also exists in the cloud. So tell me which job you want, and then I can tell you if it's helpful. But you're just spouting off technologies, which are good technologies, by the way, but it's all in context. Just like the medical example, my EKG reading does not help me as a cloud architect, but it does help me in cardiology. So let me know your career, and I can help you get there. And I can tell you what you should learn or whether it's relevant or not. If you're having a good time, if you can hit the like, comment, and subscribe, hit the bell kind of thing, and that way it signals the algorithm to tell more people all the benefits of the free work we're doing. Please help us out there. Please make sure you sign up for the free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp in June. Jacob, you're heavily considering purchasing the architect course. Is there any supplementary materials you recommend? No. Jacob He, everything is in that course. Everything you need to know from start to finish is in that course. There's nothing else you need other than maybe a practice test. So we don't want you to review anything. We don't want you to do this, because here's why. The average cloud architect earns $600 a day. A good one easily earns double that. So if you are on your own for 3 months trying to learn prerequisites, you'll most likely not know what you need to know anyway. And the average cloud architect would lose $36,000 waiting for the time. Everything you need is in our course. Our course is 500 hours in length, and it has everything in there. No matter where you come in, we're going to start you at the very beginning, because we're going to build you the most deep foundations. You know what an expert is? Someone that's got a mastery of the foundations. Then, after we know your foundation is rock solid, you know the network and you know the data center, they're going to be layering on all kinds of cool tech. And Jacob P, 6 to 8 months later, you'll be working as a cloud architect, and you're going to be so, so happy, because you'll be cloud hired, cloud paid, you'll be paid as an architect, and you're going to have a great, great life. But we'd love to work with you. There's nothing you need to do ahead of time. Just sign up. My team will provide the link. My team will provide a special 30% off discount code due to Memorial Day. Get in class, learn, and get cloud hired. That's it. It's all integrated in our program. Everything you need. This is a one-stop shop. Realistically speaking, the program is worth about $40,000, $50,000. My peers at all these big companies call me and yell at me once a week, and they say, "Mai, are you offering a $500,000 or a $50,000 course for less than $1,000?" And I say, there's a lot of cloud certification providers that have milked people out of their money. People have been working hard for years trying to get certified to get hired, and they're not getting hired. And I want to be the solution for them. I don't need to work, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So everything's in the course. I just want you getting cloud hired, and you're going to have a great life. So if you want to train with us, we'd love to get you there. We'll get you cloud hired and do everything we can to help do so, as long as you do the work. Come train with us and get cloud hired. And then, Chris, if there's another question, you can bring it in. And if not, here's the thing. Andy Griffith, can't wait to work with you. I don't know how long our 30% sale is going on. Chris from my team can tell you, but I look forward to working with you. Can't wait to see you there. And Bob, we don't mandate any degrees. At the beginning of this call, I just told you that I got somebody who was 20 years old, hired as a cloud architect, and they don't have a degree. I also told you I got somebody else hired by AWS, and he didn't have a degree either. They waited for him to finish. So we don't mandate degrees. We don't have prerequisites. We mandate the following. You come motivated to learn with a good attitude. We care about that. We care that you're supportive and nice to every other student. In fact, we have no tolerance for anybody being mean to somebody else. About the only way somebody can fail out of our program is if they're mean to the instructors or mean to our students. And guess what? It's never happened yet, but that's the thing. So we let you join the program, take the program, and you will stay in this program for up to a year until you are hired. Because we're not a certification course. Sure, we'll get you certified, but we are a cloud hired program, and we care about you getting hired, and you'll stay in our program until you are hired or when you're past this. Even after that, you'll still have access to our online training because we want the best for your career. So Adrian Griffith, I can't wait to work with you, can't wait to train you, and I can't wait till you tell me you got cloud hired. So I'd like to thank you for spending the afternoon. There were some people that asked questions. We didn't have the information. And I'm going to come back on Wednesday for you. And on Thursday, I'm going to have a free How to Get Your Cloud Architect Job webinar. And we're going to do it on Zoom. So I'll present for an hour. And after an hour, you can come on Zoom, come up mute, and we can talk. It'll be fun. Live face-to-face discussion. So please join us on Thursday. It's free. Please sign up for the completely free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp. The link is in the description below. And please sign up for this fun, free interview training session on Wednesday this week. Know what it takes to get hired. Know if you're ready to get hired. We're going to do it all free. Adrian Griffith in Barbados. Oh, Barbados. I haven't been there for a few years. I love Barbados. I love it in Jamaica. I love it in Trinidad, Grenada, all these wonderful West Indian countries. I've spent so much time in there. I like it so much that I live in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Why? Because it's the closest I can get to the Caribbean and still be in the U.S. Love it, love it, love it out of there. Adrian, love to work with you. Got lots of students in Jamaica and other wonderful places as well. So hope you join us from Barbados. So use the 30% Memorial Day discount. Get yourself cloud hired. Either one-time payment is less than $700 or 3 payments are less than $250. Let us help you build your best cloud architect or cloud engineering career. It's been so nice spending the day with you, and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Take care, everybody.